The air in the Imperial chamber was thick with tension as the Galactic Emperor gazed down at his elite assassins. There were 6 of them, each a living legend. These were not soldiers but walking weapons, bred and honed for one purpose: eradication. Their names sent tremors across worlds, and the weight of countless fallen governments and dead leaders hung in the balance of their every move. The Emperor's eyes glowed under the low light, scanning the assassins as if he were trying to see into their very souls. He spoke slowly, his voice a venomous hiss that demanded attention. Earth. The word itself sounded like a curse. A backwater planet, barely out of its cradle, yet it has resisted every attempt to control it. Humans, they are a species unlike the others we've crushed. Unpredictable, stubborn. Dangerous. The Galactic Council had convened in secret to assess the threat. Their findings were alarming. Humanity was a deviation from the norm, an anomaly that defied all predictions. Their technological advancements were behind those of the Empire, yet they adapted with unsettling speed. But it wasn't just technology. The human spirit, their resilience, made them far more dangerous than the Empire had first anticipated. No other race in the galaxy had fought so fiercely, so tenaciously. The Emperor gestured to the map hovering before him, zooming in on Earth. Their leaders, their military minds, they are key. Remove them, and Earth will crumble like the rest. You have been summoned because you are the only ones capable of handling this. Do not fail. The assassins stood silent but resolute, their forms imposing. Each one a specialist, a master of death. Their armor gleamed with the finest metals from across the Empire, their bodies augmented with enhancements far beyond the reach of any ordinary soldier. They had brought empires to their knees with mere whispers in the dark. Infiltration, precision, assassination, these were their tools. And yet, as they prepared to set off on their mission, there was an undercurrent of uncertainty. Humanity had proven to be more than a simple obstacle. They had resisted every wave of domination, adapted to every setback. It was as though they thrived on chaos. They didn't just survive, they fought back, with a ferocity that the Empire had never seen. There was a quiet murmur in the chamber as one of the assassins, a towering figure cloaked in black, shifted his stance. His voice, cold and sharp, cut through the silence. And what of Earth's defenses? They've adapted before. What makes this different? The Emperor's eyes narrowed. This time, there will be no mistakes. You are the sharpest blades I have, and I will not allow a primitive race to stand in the way of our expansion. But even as he said this, a part of him wondered if Earth's defenses had grown more dangerous than the Council realized. Earth was not like other planets the Empire had conquered, and the humans were not like other species. There was something about them that unsettled even the Emperor. He couldn't shake the thought that the humans were hiding something, something powerful. He gave his final order, voice laden with authority. Eliminate their leaders, and cripple their infrastructure. Do not allow Earth to recover. If we give them even an inch, they will take a mile. They must be broken before they rise further. The assassins nodded in unison, their confidence palpable. They had taken down far more powerful targets than Earth, after all. And yet, as they departed, the Emperor couldn't help but feel a faint tremor of doubt. Something in the shadows of that planet called Earth still eluded him, something that made even his most lethal weapons pause. The Empire had always won. Always. But this time, the Emperor knew, the stakes were higher than ever before. If these assassins failed, Earth would become something far more dangerous than the Empire could ever contain. The drop was silent. No sound, no flare of light, nothing to alert Earth's defenses. The assassins moved like shadows, slipping through the planet's atmosphere undetected. They landed in the heart of one of Earth's most secure locations, a military base fortified against every known threat in the galaxy. But the humans hadn't accounted for them. Nothing could have prepared them for what was coming. Each assassin stood out, not for their size alone but for the sheer aura of death they carried with them. Their armor, a combination of biometal and alien technology, rippled like liquid, adapting to their environment. Cloaking mechanisms embedded in their suits rendered them invisible to human sensors. Even the most advanced military tech Earth had developed couldn't detect their presence. Their leader, a figure wrapped in dark, flowing armor that absorbed light, motioned with a single gesture. The team dispersed, their movements fluid and inhumanly precise. Each assassin was a specialist. One could phase through walls like a ghost, another manipulated gravity with a flick of his fingers. Another assassin's skin could harden into an impenetrable alloy, making him immune to almost any human weapon. Each one had been genetically engineered and augmented, a walking arsenal. Their weapons were designed to bypass every known defense. They didn't need to shoot, they needed only to touch, and death followed. As they moved deeper into the base, their telepathic link kept them in constant communication. No words were spoken, only thought. To the humans, the base was still secure, functioning normally. Patrols passed, oblivious to the death that was stalking them. The assassins had done this hundreds of times before, on planets far more fortified than Earth. They considered this mission routine, a simple extermination. Inside the command center, General Everett sat in front of a wall of screens. Reports were pouring in from various global defense stations, all clear. No activity, no anomalies. And yet, something gnawed at him. There had been strange energy signatures in the atmosphere, blips too brief for their systems to trace. He watched the screens, his eyes narrowing. There had been rumors of extraterrestrial infiltrators, whispers from sources they couldn't trust. But so far, nothing had come of it. Still, the unease lingered. The assassins reached the inner sanctum. Doors slid open silently in front of them, overridden by their tech. They were now inside the nerve center of Earth's defense grid. One by one, they positioned themselves, ready to strike. Their objective was clear: decapitate the leadership, plunge the humans into chaos. From there, Earth's collapse would be inevitable. Their contempt for the humans was palpable. Earth's defenses were primitive compared to what the assassins had encountered on other worlds. They could see the flickers of energy from the human radar systems attempting to scan for anomalies. Useless. The humans might as well have been waving sticks in the air for all the good their tech did. The assassins remained undetected, moving with a deadly grace. The leader gave the signal. It was time. They had mapped out the movements of the base's personnel. Their targets, high-ranking officers, scientists, and security heads, were marked. The plan was to strike simultaneously, surgically. No wasted effort, no noise. It would be over before anyone even realized they were under attack. Their arrogance was absolute. After all, no one had ever survived an encounter with them. No one had even seen them and lived to tell the tale. This would be no different, they thought. Earth would soon become another notch on their belts. Another planet subdued, another species erased. As they readied their final approach, something flickered in the corner of the leader's vision. A brief, imperceptible motion that shouldn't have been there. He paused. There was no way anything could have detected them, yet he couldn't shake the feeling. His senses, honed from countless missions, tingled. But it was too late. Before he could issue a warning, something moved in the shadows, faster than his eye could track. The assassins had come to Earth to eliminate a threat. But they were about to face something they had never expected. Something they weren't prepared for. And in that instant, for the first time, doubt crept into their minds. The first assassin never saw it coming. One moment, he was advancing through the dark corridors of the base, confident in his cloaking tech and combat prowess. The next, his vision blurred, and a cold pressure against his throat was the last sensation he registered. Silence. He collapsed, dead before he even hit the ground. The others didn't notice immediately. Their telepathic link should have alerted them, but the assassin's consciousness had been severed so swiftly, so cleanly, that it barely caused a ripple in the collective mind. Only a split second passed before the team realized one of their own was gone, but by then, the unseen force had already melted back into the shadows. A human? Impossible, they thought. No human could bypass their defenses, much less kill one of them. But this wasn't an ordinary human. The ninja was more myth than man, a living ghost trained in a craft as old as civilization itself. He moved with the fluidity of a shadow, using the darkness and terrain as his weapons. His body was a deadly blend of ancient martial discipline and cutting-edge human technology. His suit didn't shimmer or glow with advanced cloaking mechanisms like the assassins. Instead, it was matte black, designed to absorb light and sound, blending him seamlessly into his environment. His mask revealed nothing but a pair of cold, focused eyes that missed nothing. The assassins, for all their superiority in tech and brute strength, were unprepared for a foe like this. Their systems were calibrated to detect energy signatures, movement, bioelectric fields, everything except a human who had mastered the art of disappearing into his surroundings. The ninja didn't rely on technology to stay hidden. He relied on something far more primal: patience, precision, and the element of surprise. Another assassin faltered. His motion sensor flickered briefly before cutting out entirely. He spun around, but all he saw was darkness. His fingers tightened around his weapon, but before he could react, something fast and sharp pierced the back of his neck. There was no sound, no warning, just the sensation of falling into the abyss. Another one down. Now, the assassins felt it, the first pangs of unease. They were elite, born and bred to be killers, but they had never faced an enemy they couldn't see, couldn't predict. This ninja was different. He didn't fight them head-on, didn't engage with the brute force they had come to expect. Instead, he picked them off one by one, using their arrogance and over-reliance on tech against them. Telepathic chatter intensified as the remaining assassins tried to regroup. They scanned the area, switching through multiple vision modes: infrared, ultraviolet, motion tracking, desperate to locate the threat. But the ninja moved too quickly, too quietly. He was always a step ahead, and by the time they realized where he was, it was already too late. The ninja struck with surgical precision. A brief flick of a blade, a silent dart, a perfectly timed strike to disable the assassin's most vulnerable points. He exploited every weakness, every blind spot. They had come expecting a direct confrontation, but this was a battle they weren't equipped for. Their tech, their enhancements, none of it mattered against an enemy who refused to play by their rules. Panic began to set in. The assassins, who had never known fear, now felt something alien, a sense of dread creeping into their bones. This mission, which had seemed so routine, so inevitable, was slipping out of their control. For every advantage they thought they had, the ninja countered it with simplicity and skill. They couldn't predict his movements, couldn't match his speed or precision. He wasn't just a human, he was something more, something honed to perfection by millennia of discipline. One assassin attempted to fall back, to regroup with the others, but before he could take more than a few steps, the ninja appeared out of nowhere, striking with the speed of a viper. A blade flashed, and the assassin was gone. Another one lost. Now there were only two left. And they were starting to understand, they weren't the predators in this hunt. They were the prey. The two remaining assassins, now fully aware of the silent slaughter happening around them, scrambled to regain control. Their cloaking devices flickered to life as they vanished into thin air, hoping to use their technology to turn the tide. But even invisible, they couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, stalked like prey. Desperation gripped them, an unfamiliar sensation for beings who had always wielded power and fear over others. Their leader activated a scanning device that pulsed with an eerie glow, revealing a wide array of detection methods. Energy pulses, electromagnetic waves, thermal vision, all geared to locate any living thing within miles. But the readings came back empty, as though the ninja didn't even exist. It made no sense. How could a human, even one with advanced tech, evade systems designed to find anything that breathed? They shifted tactics, now abandoning stealth for aggression. These were no longer calculated hunters, they had become cornered animals. They unleashed their advanced weaponry, their energy cannons tearing through the landscape in blind rage. Walls crumbled, trees disintegrated, the air crackled with the force of their attacks. They thought they could flush him out with brute force, that eventually, he would have no place to hide. But this was the ninja's domain, chaos was his weapon. Each blast only gave him more cover, more opportunities to mislead and misdirect. The assassins fired at shadows, while the real threat crept closer, undetected. One of them stepped into a shallow crater left by an explosion, and just as his foot landed, there was a faint, almost imperceptible click. Too late. A pressure-activated trap snapped shut, pinning his leg. Before he could free himself, the ninja's blade flashed from the darkness. One precise strike, and another assassin was gone. The leader, the last one standing, hissed with frustration. His mind, usually calm and focused, now spun with confusion and dread. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. They were supposed to be invincible. Yet here he was, alone, his squad decimated by a single human who had yet to even show his face. He could feel his grip on the mission slipping, his superiority crumbling under the weight of fear. But this assassin wasn't like the others. He was the strongest, the deadliest among them. He had survived battles that would have killed most, and he refused to fall here, on this backwater planet. Not to a human. He activated a final sequence on his wrist, and his suit transformed, reinforcing his armor and doubling his strength. His weaponry calibrated, shifting into a lethal combat mode meant for full-scale annihilation. He would find the ninja and crush him, personally. The chase resumed, but now it was different. The assassin moved with more precision, more anger. He wasn't just trying to kill, he wanted to make the ninja suffer. He advanced through a dense forest, every tree and shadow a potential hiding spot. His scanners remained active, trying to catch even the faintest sign of movement. The ninja, however, was patient. He watched from above, his body still and breath controlled. This assassin was stronger, more aggressive, but strength wasn't enough. The ninja knew that. His training had been about more than just combat. It was about discipline, about mastering the mind as much as the body. Unlike the assassins, who relied on overwhelming force and superior technology, the ninja had been taught to adapt, to use the enemy's strength against them. As the assassin stomped through the forest, growing more frustrated with every step, the ninja's plan was already in motion. He led the assassin deeper into unfamiliar territory, where human ruins littered the landscape. The ancient buildings and debris provided cover for a tactical ambush. He could sense the assassin's confidence wavering. Every missed attack, every failed scan chipped away at the alien's composure. Finally, the two faced each other, and the ninja stepped into the assassin's line of sight for the first time. It was a stark contrast, the assassin, towering and armored, bristling with weapons and raw power, the ninja, lean and unassuming, holding nothing but a traditional blade in hand. The assassin lunged, his augmented strength turning the ground to dust beneath him. The ninja didn't engage directly, he ducked and weaved, a blur of motion that the assassin couldn't pin down. Every swing of the assassin's weapon met only air. The ninja's agility was too much, his movements too precise. The assassin's tech struggled to keep up with such a swift, fluid opponent. Then came the final blow. The ninja, with a skill honed through years of rigorous training, found the smallest gap in the assassin's armor. One strike, a clean, swift arc of his blade, pierced through the defenses, hitting the critical spot. The assassin's eyes widened, realization dawning too late. The ninja had bested him, not through strength, but through skill and precision. The fight was over. The Emperor stood in the dim light of his throne room, the vastness of space stretching out before him through the panoramic window. His hands clenched into fists as he read the report. It wasn't possible. His deadliest assassins, the very best his empire had to offer, were gone, defeated on Earth. Not a single one had returned. They had been sent to eliminate a backwater planet, a primitive world with no real standing in the galactic order, and yet, they had all fallen. How could this happen? He muttered, his voice filled with disbelief. He couldn't comprehend how a planet like Earth had managed to overcome the unstoppable force he had dispatched. Earth was supposed to be a mere stepping stone, an afterthought in his empire's grand plan. And yet, it had resisted. On Earth, the aftermath of the battle was being cleaned up. Human forces, unaware of the full scope of the threat, stumbled upon the bodies of the assassins. They were enormous, alien creatures, their advanced armor and technology unlike anything the humans had ever seen. And yet, despite their fearsome appearance, they lay lifeless, scattered across the terrain like fallen titans. But there was no sign of the one who had brought them down. The ninja remained unseen, his presence only known through the silent devastation left in his wake. To the humans, it was as though an invisible hand had swept through, protecting them from a threat they hadn't even fully understood. As the Emperor stewed in disbelief, a transmission came through on the Imperial communication line. His eyes narrowed as he saw the source. It was from Earth. The display flickered, and then, without warning, a single line of text appeared across the screen. Earth will not bow. The Emperor's face darkened. This wasn't a message from a government official or military leader. This was a personal warning, sent by the very one who had thwarted his plans. Earth had not only survived the attack, it had sent a message back to the galaxy's most powerful ruler. Earth was not to be underestimated. The Emperor stood motionless, processing the implications. The humans were more than a nuisance now. They were a growing threat. A species that could adapt, learn, and, most terrifyingly, strike back. The assassins had been trained to dominate, to subdue any race they encountered, yet they had been undone by a single human warrior. How many more like him did Earth have? How many other secrets were buried on that seemingly insignificant planet? He thought back to the countless worlds his empire had crushed underfoot. They had all fallen easily, too easily. But Earth was different. Humanity didn't crumble under pressure, it grew stronger. They didn't rely on technology alone, nor brute force. They thrived in chaos, found strength in adversity, and adapted in ways the Empire hadn't anticipated. The Emperor's thoughts shifted from rage to calculation. The galaxy had always viewed humans as fragile, primitive beings. But if one ninja could dismantle his best assassins, what could an entire race of such warriors do? Earth was more dangerous than they had ever realized, and now the galaxy had to contend with that reality. In the darkness of his throne room, the Emperor issued a new order. Prepare the fleets. Earth is no longer just a target, it's a threat. Yet as the words left his mouth, he knew deep down that this would not be as simple as the other conquests. Humanity had risen from the shadows, and the galaxy had taken notice. Back on Earth, the ninja disappeared as quietly as he had arrived, leaving behind only the echoes of his actions. Humanity's enemies had come to conquer, but they had underestimated what Earth was capable of. The galaxy, once ignorant of Earth's potential, was now forced to acknowledge it. Humanity, in the face of insurmountable odds, had not only survived, they had won. And now, with the Empire's eyes on them, they would continue to grow, adapt, and thrive. The universe had its superpowers, its mighty empires, but none of them had faced anything like the resilience and ingenuity of Earth. The galaxy would soon learn, humanity doesn't bow. It rises.